Welcome to the Show Me the Way podcast. I am your host, Andrea Miller, and I'm so excited to bring this show to you. Show Me the Way is a podcast dedicated to exploring the journeys of those who have faced adversity and found themselves on unexpected paths. We will have meaningful, thoughtful conversations about challenges we have faced and how we discovered and forged new direction. Prepare to be inspired and to uncover your own strength as you listen to relatable and motivating stories. Life has a way of twisting and turning, and we often need a fresh perspective to understand how to navigate. Let's show each other the way. On today's episode of Show Me the Way, I have the pleasure of interviewing Sandy Kovach, co-host of the Imagine Yourself podcast. You may remember my friend Lanee Blaise, who helped inspire and encourage me when starting this show. Lanee and Sandy are partners on Imagine Yourself, and I've had the privilege of learning so much from both of them. After being a guest on their podcast, I knew I wanted to invite Sandy here to share her story and wisdom. Sandy is married and an empty nester, with their son now grown and pursuing a career in music. She opened up about her career in radio and voiceover work, the challenges that come with changes in format and direction, and the tough season she and her husband faced when both were out of work. She also shared how faith and prayer have carried her through those uncertain times, including health challenges, and helped shape her into the woman she is today. We also talked about passion, how Sandy has pursued hers and how she has encouraged her son to follow his dreams, even when the path seemed impractical. She values the balance of having a degree to fall back on, but celebrates the courage it takes to chase after what truly lights you up. Finally, we discussed the Imagine Yourself podcast and Sandy's hope that every listener takes away small nuggets of encouragement, perspective, and inspiration, whether from guest stories or from the conversation that she and Lanee share. Sandy is such a strong, thoughtful speaker, and I'm so grateful she joined me to share her voice, faith, and perspective with all of us. Welcome back to the Show Me the Way podcast. I'm really looking forward to speaking with today's guest, Sandy Kovach. You may recall when I first started the podcast, I mentioned a mentor and a major supporter, Lanee Blaise. Lanee was a guest for week 8 and she still is one of my favorite interviews. She really helped me with my interview style and to feel comfortable moving forward with the podcast. And Lanee and Sandy are podcasters as well. They are partners for the Imagine Yourself podcast that we'll talk about during today's episode. And I have learned a great deal from both of them through listening and asking questions. After having Lanee as a guest, I knew it would be really great to also have Sandy. Sandy has a lot of experience in the podcasting, radio, and broadcasting industry. And you may even hear her voice from time to time on radio advertisements. She has so much to offer, and everything that she does also incorporates her strong faith. So when I hear her, I'm truly inspired and grateful for the connection. Sandy and Lanee allowed me to be a guest on their podcast, and I learned so much through that process as well. I always say we don't have scripts for the Show Me the Way podcast, and I don't always know exactly what our guests will share, but I know whichever direction Sandy goes, we will all learn from her insights and understand how it is that she's gotten to where she is. Welcome to the show, Sandy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Andrea. I'm looking forward to it.
Great, great. I say a few things about my guests and how I know them, but I also like to give them an opportunity to share a little bit more with our listeners. So, Sandy, tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, like you said, I've been doing broadcasting and podcasting and all the things with my voice for a long time. Started out in radio out of college. Then, and I guess that would be one of my big adversity moments. I know you like to talk about overcoming adversity. When I got laid off after being at the same company for 19 years, station changed formats. I kind of like explored more into the voiceover, but I did, stay in radio a little bit. And then eventually, I've kind of done a mix of the radio and the voiceovers all throughout. And the podcasting thing, of course, became a big deal. I don't know. Lanee and I have been doing Imagine Yourself podcast for 7 years. I guess we're kind of early adapters, depending on, whose timeline you're looking at. But now it seems like there's a ton of them out there, and we welcome all of them, like Show Me the Way podcast, which is awesome. And I'm really glad that you listen and that you and Lanee are friends. And I know you guys had Bible study together, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my kind of elevator spiel about my career. Did you want me to jump into the adversity piece or?
Yeah, so that's kind of a good segue. I know I was going to say too that you're a mom and you're a wife and you live in
Oh,
Michigan, right?
We've you know what? We just did a podcast about how our busy lives, we don't focus enough on our relationships, and,
Yeah, I
yeah,
just
so
started
you
listening to
reminded me of
that.
that.
I just started listening to that.
Yeah.
That's totally true. We don't.
Yeah, but I am an empty nester, and my son is a musician. Much to my husband, well, I won't say shock and horror, but I love that. Much to his shock and horror. He's not really horrified, but he got a business degree, and I think he'd rather that Joe was an accountant. But he is very talented musically. He led worship in our church for a long time, and he is in a Paul McCartney cover band called the McCartney Years. Very cool. And so he's doing that and a bunch of other musical stuff right now and trying to make it. But he has his degree to fall back on. But as a mom, I'm sure you know the concerns of like the music industry or any industry that's so fickle and just a regular old job. But you know what? Us OGs, we had jobs for years, and I guess it's more of a gig economy now anyway. So I think
Yeah.
Joe will be okay. Oh, and I have a cat and a dog, Max and Belle. So they are babies right now. And my husband is an engineer, and he and I are absolutely nothing alike, but we really love each other. So there you go.
I love that. I could say the same thing about my husband. We are so different, but yeah, the love's there. So sometimes it's great to balance each other out. So that is wonderful. I thank you for sharing all about that because I like to hear that side as well. But you're right. The reason I started the Show Me the Way podcast was because, as many of our listeners and you know, my younger son was diagnosed with Duchenne muscular dystrophy when he was 5, and I just wanted a platform where we could share. And like I said in my intro, I have been listening to Imagine Yourself podcast, and I just really wanted to do something similar. Every time I listen to an episode of that podcast, I'm inspired, or I feel like that was great advice, or it's just down to earth, real things that we all go through, and sometimes we need a little bit of perspective or guidance. And then I also wanted to create this place where people could come in and share. And sometimes they talk about medical diagnoses for themselves or their children. Sometimes they talk about grief. Sometimes it's, well, I thought I was going to do this and now I'm doing this. Or like you said, I was laid off and it caused me to completely change directions. So many times in life, we create this story, this path. We're like, this is where we're going. And then that has to change. Change is inevitable. And then what do we do with that change? So, like Sandy and I chatted about before we popped in here, there's no script. I didn't say, Sandy, here's what I want you to talk about. So, I'm going to give you the opportunity to share whatever is on your heart, and we'll just go from there.
Well, first of all, Andrea, you're doing an amazing job with the podcast, with everything you juggle. I mean,
Thank you.
I would recommend that anybody go back and listen to our episode with you also on Imagine Yourself, because with everything you're dealing with your family, with your son, and the fact that, you're such an encouragement to other people. I mean, that's very inspiring in and of itself. So I'm glad you're out sharing that. And I kind of look at what I do as, maybe the podcast especially, but like one of my radio stations I'm on is a Christian radio station, and it's not here, it's in Florida. I do nowadays people voice track radio stations all over the country. It's technology kind of like we're using right now. But to encourage people, a lot of people are, like going through things with their family. They're going through hard times, or they're going through career changes, or they are very insecure, or they've had traumatic experiences and their anxiety level is off the chart. You just don't know. And so I just want to be somebody who is not judging, who is encouraging, and who gives advice. And Lanee and I share that. And we met in Bible study also in a different, I think, in Rooted that we did at church. And the funny thing is we both wanted to go with our regular ladies Bible study people that we knew, but they made us go into these separate groups, and they're like, "You're not going to know anybody." And, mumbling under my breath, but I'm so glad that's God placed Lanee and I together, sat us next to each other. I found out she had done voiceovers before, and we just started talking, and we had lunch one day, and I invited her to do a podcast, and we didn't know what we were doing, and I mean, knew a little bit, but I don't know. But so there it is. That is so encouraging people like you want to share your story. I guess mine doesn't have a particularly like a jumping off point. Like I went through this, and so I want to share that. It's just like I've been through a lot of crap, and whatever I can share with you that helped me. And if I can share my faith, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a big thing with the Imagine Yourself podcast. It's you'll be talking and be sharing advice, but you always come back to the faith. And I like what you just said. God placed you both in that situation. I feel the same way probably with all of my guests. There's always a reason, like God wanted you to speak to this person. And then what else is crazy is it always seems like it's the right time. So you and I talked to you months ago, like, be a guest on my show. And you said, I would like to, but I need time. Like, we'll talk about it later. And I can't believe August is already here. Back then, it seemed like months off, but I just think this was the right time. I think God wanted us to talk today, so that's
Yep,
what we're doing. So I love that.
absolutely.
I love that. Yeah, a lot of my guests haven't necessarily had a jump off point like this is exactly what I went through and here's a perspective. But you mentioned a couple of things. I'm guessing maybe you're going to go the job route, but getting laid off, trying to determine what your next path is, or the empty nest thing. I mean, it can be just about anything. I believe that everybody has a story to share.
Yeah, the job thing it's been a couple of times where I've had some real career questions and God has always come through. But I do remember specifically, I had done radio ever since I graduated from college. And like I said before, the one station I had worked for through a couple of format changes, or at least one format change before, and stayed around. So almost 20 years. And I didn't know who I was if I wasn't on the radio. I mean, I know okay, I don't wanna say I didn't know who I was. That sounds a little extreme, but it was a lot of my identity, put it that way.
Hmm.
And the further I got away from it, the more I realized that it was a little too much. We had to trust God because my husband it was 2008, 2009, one of those years, and we were going through the recession. And I think there was a time when both of us were unemployed. So, you have to rely on savings and you have to trust God. One thing, we had to take some money out of an account, out of like one that you're not supposed to touch, 401k. And God put it on my heart, you better tithe on that, even though we needed all the money. And that was like kind of the beginning of showing trust in God, and he led me to my next thing. And my next opportunity was pretty good. And it was working at home, and it was for a network I still work for, sometimes the Smooth Jazz Network. And then, I did some part-time and other radio stations, and now I'm kind of in the place where I'm tracking for different stations around the country, not working for any local stations while I do the voiceovers and the podcast. And I even have a little part-time job for retail so I can get a good discount. So, I got my hands in a lot of stuff, but the jumping off point, the trusting God point, the tithing point I mentioned, because sometimes you just have to surrender. Like, this is counterintuitive. I need every single dollar of this money that I'm taking out of an account I'm not supposed to take out. And you're telling me, give 10%. And yeah, that was kind of a big jumping point in my faith. And then I went through a big health crisis a couple of years ago. I have a chronic illness, and I'm dealing with it. But I was really down there for a while. Things were very slow, and I didn't know what to do, and I didn't have any hope. And God again led me to different paths. I mean, I had to take some action steps. Didn't just sit there and wonder, gee, I wonder when my next opportunity is going to come. I had to contact people, go through LinkedIn or whatever and find my next opportunity. I feel like all I'm talking about is my career.
No, I mean, I actually keep hearing you say God led you. So that's kind of making my brain want to go that way. Lanee talks about it a lot too. It's something I learned during Bible study. There are people out there that say, I hear God, God talks to me, God shares with me. And I've always wondered about that
Yeah.
because I don't know that I hear it or that I'm listening the same way. So that's always been like a challenge to me. So when you say God led you, what does that mean to you?
There can be different ways. Lanee is somebody who actually, I don't know if she hears the audible voice of God, but God speaks to her heart a lot. And in fact, I remember asking her the same question. How do that it's God? I um I will say this. Once I got more serious about seeking God, seek first the kingdom of God and all things will be added. I'm paraphrasing that scripture in Matthew, but God would open my eyes more to things. I would have dreams. Has actually spoken to me in dreams. I literally dreamed about Jesus one night and speaking with him in heaven, and it was crazy. And I shared it. I think I shared it on the podcast one time. So different ways, like this morning. I was doing a break for my, Christian radio station, and I record it and then I upload it. Okay, so it's a little different than me speaking live. And there was a part of it that I really felt like God say, "Don't say that." I mean, there wasn't anything wrong with it, but it was in my heart. Literally, my chest was tight. And then I went back and edited the break, and then I re-uploaded it. So, okay, it can be something like that. Lanee has told the story about she has a friend who had a dove fly in the window of her car. That's pretty dramatic. That's never
Mm.
happened to me. So it's just a feeling that you get, and it's just circumstances that if you immerse yourself in the Word of God and you ask God for guidance, and you said it earlier, we were meant to be on the podcast today. It's just following and walking, and as you follow God's Word, as you try to be obedient, and obedience, I've always hated that word. It just reminds me too much of like, I don't know what it reminds me of, but I mean, that's part of it, right? But
Yeah, and so you're right. You were talking about, I mean, some of your biggest changes. You did mention a health challenge, so that obviously is a big impactful challenge, but a lot of your major steps throughout your life, a lot of the adversity has been, I thought I was going to be at this position. I thought I was going to be doing this radio format. I thought my husband and I would have these careers, whatever, and then things change. Like you said, you were both out of work at one point, and that's got to be extremely scary. So, yes, you're focused on the different challenges you faced through work, but I do like how that caused you to increase your faith in God because and even if you're listening and you're not a God believer, that's okay. Everybody has a different thought process. Everybody has a different thing that they refer to. But to me, that's really good perspective because you recognize I can't do this alone. I can't figure out this path all by myself. I think so many times we're like, we've got this, we're in control. And God reminds us we're not in control all the time. So I think it's really great that going through these, instead of you staying in that dark place, being upset, thinking, woe is me, you decided to turn to your faith and grow that. So to me, that's a huge stepping stone and a great perspective and the epitome of what we're trying to do here.
yeah, I mean, God uses everything. So, and maybe for me, because admittedly, I'm a little work obsessed and have been for most of my life. Yeah, workaholic. I've been called that. I'm getting over it. But so God uses my career and my work and say pulls the rug out from under me, whether it's my health or a job, and I guess gets my attention.
I tell people all the time, my parents live in Florida and they recently got it in their head that they're going to move to North Carolina. And they ended up purchasing a house without seeing it. And then they drove to North Carolina and it wasn't exactly what they had in mind. And so I told my mom, God gives us signs all the time. And sometimes we don't pick up on it until he hits us over the head. So sometimes he has to do that. Fortunately, they found another house that's going to fit them a lot better than that one. Sometimes we do just need this extra little push. So I totally, totally get that. And to your point, it's us saying, wait, that is probably God speaking to us. We just have to be intentional and open to that. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Follow the lead.
Yeah, exactly. So I really like that. Let me go back to I also wrote down format changes. So when those radio changes happened, like you kind of said, that's who I am. Work takes such a big part in my life. When you're used to doing one thing and then they say, guess what? Now you're going to do this format. What does that do to you? Is it easy to adapt?
It depends on what it is. For me, I went from rock and roll to smooth jazz.
Wow, what a difference.
I know, and I worked for a manager who invited everybody to stay, and I didn't think I was going to at first, but you know what? I ended up really embracing and loving the music and the people and the audience and the concerts. We had so many great live shows, and the musicians are awesome. It's just like it, I hear country is like that a little bit too. It's a tight knit kind of group. And, it's not like the rock stars, and not that I mean, I've met, nice people who are very famous, but, it's just it's different, it's a different feel. So, I loved it. I loved it, and, people to this day, like, we were at the premiere for Lanee's TV series, and a friend of hers was like, "Oh, yeah, I remember you from Smooth Jazz," and yeah, so
That's so cool. I think I'm just really curious and interested in the whole radio side of things. My younger son, who has the muscular dystrophy, I keep trying to find his path. Like, what can he do? He loves sports, and obviously, he can't play sports the way others do. But he got involved with the radio at the school, which I
Oh,
think is so cool. So I'm like all into it. I ask him all kinds of questions. I feel like I'm living vicariously through him. So it's really cool to
yeah.
hear his voice on the radio. I just think that's just a really neat industry.
It's a little tougher than it used to be with AI and with, voice tracking, but there's still especially for, like, talk and sports and stuff, there's
Right.
definitely a place. Or he could have a podcast, right? Could he
Right.
do a sports podcast?
As somebody said he should just create his own YouTube channel and just start talking sports because everybody would listen to him. He knows more about sports than anyone I know.
Yeah, see, and that's the
Yeah.
venue to go. I'm
Yeah.
definitely YouTube or podcasting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so the broadcasting at school at least is gonna give him confidence to speak, so that he can go do his
exactly.
own thing. So, yeah, I see big things for him. But anyway, I think the other thing I wanted to talk about too was getting back to your son. I love that even though you think to yourself, "Oh, you need a steady job," that you seem to be encouraging him to go after his passion. So, yes, he probably saw you working very hard, always trying to keep moving forward and working every day and supporting your family. I'm sure he saw that growing up, and I'm sure he's got that instilled in him, like, I've got to work, I have to make money, I have to support my family. But on the other hand, going after his passion, I think is awesome. And I love that you said he can fall back on his degree when he needs to. So I think you have done that a little bit by doing the podcasting and bringing in your faith and all of that, having the passion there too. And so I love that you're encouraging him with that as well.
Yeah, it's my husband that mostly has the issues 'cause he's way more practical than me. I'm the creative type, and people warned me about getting into radio. I mean, this was, like, back when radio was a big deal and people would, like, move around and get fired all the time, or that was the image, of the Johnny Fever or something from WKRP, Town to Town. I mean, I did work in a couple other cities, but that was never really the case, but I knew there was nothing else I could do. I knew that, if I didn't do radio saved my life. I was good at it. I'm not good at a whole lot of other things, and, I feel like Joe is kinda like that with music. I'm not saying he's not good at a whole lot of other
Mm.
things, but I am saying he is very good at music. He did not get that talent from me. He got it from his dad's side of the family. He was around music with me all the time, working at a station and concerts and stuff, so that may have influenced him, but I don't have a lick of musical talent. In fact, I cannot sing at all. Even when I'm in church, in praise and worship, I'll sing if, like, everyone else is singing, but otherwise, I'm gonna mouth the words because you don't wanna hear it, which is really crazy why God would give me a good radio voice, but 0, um, talent. But yeah, to your point, I definitely say follow your dreams. I say that for your son. I mean, I would say that for you. I don't care what point in life you are. I mean, you have to be practical, but I don't think that's a problem for your son or for you. But yeah, I mean, if God's placed a talent in you and he's given you a passion for it, do you wanna spend the rest of your life, wondering what would it be like? And that's kinda what Joe says. He doesn't want to look back and regret, and because he hits one stumbling point, say, "Okay, I'm gonna quit now." I mean, he's doing something good. The whole catalyst for my husband's issue was they were doing what do you call those things when they stay at one venue for a long time? Like Las Vegas, people do them all the
Yeah, a
time.
residency. Yeah.
Residency, yeah. They
Mhm.
had a residency in Mackinac Island, and they had it all summer last year, and this year it ended early, so they didn't have any shows booked for, like, a couple of months till they go on their fall tour, and that was like, "Okay, now what do you do?" And so it was kind of at that crisis point was my husband was getting in there saying, "Dude, you know, go back and, you do music part-time." Because, I mean, maybe that's where he ends up at some point, but
Right,
he
right.
he really wants to follow it right now. So
Okay. Well, yeah, I do appreciate the practicality side of it. You do have to do that. But yeah, I just think life is so short. I always share on this podcast the perspective that I get from my son, and it's I think so differently now. I mean, of course I'm a lot older now, but I also just think like you don't know what tomorrow will bring. So you don't want to look back and say, oh, I should have done that. I wish I would have done that. Or, I like to travel quite a bit, and you always see those quotes that say, you never lay on your deathbed and say, "I wish I traveled less." I wish I took less vacation. No one says that, right? So
Right.
if you can try to experience things, obviously it takes money to do a lot of different things and to live this life, but you still can go after your passion and figure things out. So I really admire that. And why not when you're young? Don't wait until you're too old to enjoy that time. So go do it.
Exactly. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
still young.
Yeah.
Yeah. My husband's just a very practical guy,
Yeah. Well,
and it's
that's
and
good.
he
It's
needs
great.
to hear that too. Honestly, he need to hear my husband say all the stuff he said. He
Yes,
was
for
not
sure.
wrong, but
For sure. My husband
yeah.
is more the practical one as well. So
Yeah?
but it's just like my older son plays soccer, and I was telling one of the moms yesterday, school's first, right? So he goes to college, school is number 1. But fortunately, he gets to play soccer while he's going to school, and he that's his passion right now. Now, is he gonna be a soccer player in the premium, the big league? No. Probably not. Okay. He's playing at a small school in Michigan, but he loves it. I was watching him yesterday. He played a scrimmage and he's got this huge smile on his face. Like that's where his passion is. But he's also going to school. He's going to get a degree and we'll see what happens. And,
Yeah.
if tomorrow he says, I don't know that I want to do soccer anymore, well, then he changes his mind. I mean, I'll cry about it, but, but, but yeah, it's like that. He's just following his passion right now, but we'll see what happens. So,
Yeah, that's exactly.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
fact that he's playing and he has a smile on his face, I mean,
Yes.
that must light you up, just
Yes, it
seeing that.
really does. It really does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess we've had a couple of guests on here, and I think Lanee, when I had a conversation with her too, it was more about like what God has led her to do over time and the people that have come in and out of her life. So, a very similar conversation. But I'm guessing throughout all of these changes in career and being a parent and being married to a practical guy, I'm guessing you've got some perspective and thoughts that our listeners could take with them as they're trying to navigate through different changes in life.
I would just say, coming from a faith perspective, what I was saying about seek first the kingdom of God and immerse yourself as much you can in God's word. But just kind of a takeaway for everyone is that I think you said it at the beginning of the podcast, change is going to come. Things are going to happen. I always thought when I was young, the goal was to be happy and to have everything going right. And when it wasn't going right, then what the heck is going on here?
Exactly.
But that's not life, and once you relax into that and realize that you're gonna go through things, and I personally could not do it without God, but just the whole perspective of not being shocked when things happen. Now, how would you I mean, you've had some real trials yourself. How did you sort of process all of that? I'm turning it around on
Well,
you
it's
because
it's
I
good. I like that.
yeah.
Yeah. Podcaster to podcaster here. That I don't usually get it turned back on me, but that's a good thought. I was gonna say when I was young, people would always ask you what's your 5 and 10-year plan. I remember that throughout college, and then when I started my first job, it's like, "In 5 years, where do you see yourself?" And I always tried to go through that process. When I received the diagnosis for my son, it was no longer 5 and 10 years. Like, that was gone. It was like, "What's happening next week?" Because I would find right after the diagnosis, it was such a difficult time. It's difficult to remember everything that went through our heads at that time, but if I would look too far into the future, I would snowball, and it
Oh,
would overwhelm me, and it was so difficult to get through the day. I thought, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna do that? What's college gonna be like? What is he gonna get married? I mean, I just kept going that far, and he was 5 years old.
oh my
So,
gosh.
it really quickly taught me, you can't live like that. You have to think about today. And that really changed everything for me, and I still go that way. I mean, sometimes when you fly by the seat of of your pants, you get in trouble. Sometimes you need to prep a little bit more, but it has taught me, be okay doing things messy. Be okay following your passion. You don't know what tomorrow brings. You truly don't. Anything could happen to any of us. He has a diagnosis where there's no cure. When you hear about it, doctors will say, at age 12, this will happen. At age 19, that will happen. There's like all of these historical milestones that you follow. And it's hard to think about all of that stuff that's going to happen. So you could think, oh my gosh, is he going to die at 23? I don't know. But we don't know that for any of us. I mean, I could get into a car accident tomorrow. You never know what the future brings, what we're going to do, who's going to outlive who. You can't predict the future. So you got to live in today. And that's just been my mindset going forward. And I share that with a lot of people, anyone that's overwhelmed, one day at a time. My husband was one of my guests on the podcast, and that was the name of his episode, One Day at a Time, because that's how we live. That's how we live. Right or wrong. That's what we do.
No, it's great. It's one of the biggest pieces of advice I always gave my son, just do the next right thing, because he would, especially during the time when he was in high school and he had all his activities, he had band. Most of his things were like in band and theater and some of his other things. But you know how it is. I mean, you're a
Hmm.
mom of, okay, so your one son is 16, and how old is your older son?
19.
19. Is he graduated?
Yeah. So he is on a second year in college.
That's right. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So you remember all of that, right? I
Hmm.
mean,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that can
Oh, yeah.
be so, and they get up early, and sometimes you have activities before school and blah blah blah. And they really run our I don't remember running that hard when I was a kid, but
Me either. I think times are different now for sure.
yeah. So that's what I would tell him, just do the next right thing
I love that.
sometimes. And I think that lines up with what you're saying. I mean, especially up a big situation, you can truly just get so overwhelmed by it.
Yes. Yeah, that
Yeah.
I love that. I'm gonna share that with a lot of people. Do the next right
Yeah,
thing.
I didn't make it up. I'm sure I
N
read it.
well,
Somebody else said
I'll
it, and
give
it's
you
probably
credit. I'll give you
yeah.
credit for sharing it with me. But yeah, like, for example, when he decided to play soccer at the small school, Adrian, about an hour from where I live, and he told his friends, "I'm doing this. I'm gonna go play." They happened to know the coach from the club team that they played in, so it was, like, a really good fit. If he wanted to play soccer, it was a really good fit, and when he decided to go, 5 of his other really good friends, they decided to. Like, within a couple of days, everybody's like, "We're going, we're going, we're going." So, he had this group of 6. There were 6 of them. We're close to all the parents. It was, like, so cool that they were all gonna go play college soccer together. And they ended up having a great freshman season. They all played and they did well and they're winning all these games. They had so much fun. Well, after the season's over and then they kind of got into school, some of them changed their mind. Do I really want to play soccer anymore? Do I wish I went to a bigger school? And so over the summer or just before, 3 of them out of the 6 decided not to go back.
Oh.
And we were shocked. We're like, "What? What do you mean going back?" And one of them, like, he just hemmed and hawed and he kept going back and forth, and I just wanted to be like, "Buddy, it's okay. Like, just make a decision." But I wish I would have told him, "Just do the next right thing. What's right for you?" And, maybe it's not. He finally decided to go to Michigan State, a Big 10 school, have that experience. Good for him, but he was so up and down about it, and I just you could just see, like, on his face, like, "What do I do?" And I just wanted to say, if you change your mind again, it's okay. Like, this
Yeah.
is not set in stone. I'm sure his parents said all of those things to him, but he just seems so torn, and I saw photos of him moved into Michigan State, and he seems very happy, so it probably was the next right thing for him, but, yeah, I think that's great advice for people when they get overwhelmed with too much to make a decision about.
And I'm glad that he is happy with his decision.
Yes,
I think
me
we
too.
all get decision anxiety like that. Maybe that's
Mhm.
an extreme example, but
Yeah, yeah, decision anxiety.
that's when, and if you are a believer, that's a good time to pray and ask God to lead you in a direction. And he may not, speak, well, he probably won't speak audibly, but he may or may not speak something to your heart, or you'll just end up meeting the right people, or the right thing is going to happen, and
Yep, yep.
all of that.
So I want to be respectful of your time. I know you've got a lot going on today, but just 2 more questions that were on my mind. And one is in relation to what you just said. When you personally seek out God or when you feel like, oh, I have nowhere else to turn, I need to go back to my faith. What does that look like for you? What are your prayers like? Do you do that in like the silent moments when you're by yourself? Is it more when you're in a group setting, Bible study? What does that look like for you?
It's a good question. I get a lot of my spiritual energy sounds kind of new agey and mystique so I don't know if I wanna say that, but, like, I love praise and worship, and I get a really good connection during that's during the music, and I like my devotional time. I get up really early because my radio show, one of them is in the morning, but I still think it's worth getting up extra early, and I just open up my Bible app and I see what their scripture is, and I dive into that verse. Or for a while, I was reading, specific books, but I would just go a little at a time. I would not say, okay, I'm going to read the Bible in a year or anything like that, because that would overwhelm me. And my cat
Mhm.
comes up and sits on my lap, and I have my coffee, and through these things, I feel God's presence, and that helps me to move on. I'm no Bible scholar. And of course, doing Imagine Yourself podcast, talking to Lanee about her experiences and talking to our guests about their experiences like you, it all fills up my faith bucket too. So I guess
Yeah.
is that kind of the answer you were looking
Yes.
for?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
perfect because I think, and we've said it a couple times in this episode, the overwhelm, you have to do what is best for you, what you feel comfortable with, and what will not overwhelm you, but encourage you to keep your faith going. And that was also a good segue because I wanted to hear a little bit more about Imagine Yourself because I definitely want our listeners to go check out your podcast. So tell me more about that podcast.
Well, it is geared towards women and specifically, I don't know, I would say 45 plus, although we have listeners younger. It's a lot of women who have made different changes, and kind of not unlike your podcast, Show Me the Way, in that a lot of our guests end up talking about, yeah, I was in this position and then something happened and then I had to go over this way. It's a pretty simplistic way of looking at it, but it's an encouragement. It's
Mhm.
meant to be a non-judgmental encouragement for women. Lately, it's taken more of a faith bent, I think,
Mhm.
as Lanee and I have felt led to do that. And again, even with the faith bent, we're not saying, okay, we're going to read the Bible to you and here's what you're going to believe. It's not like that. It's like our experiences with God. And we will talk about scripture and we'll talk about, things that, our encounters with it, but we'll never pretend to be experts. I mean, that's left up to people. We're not pastors. Although Lanee was a Bible study leader, so I feel like she can have that title a little bit. But
She would say, "No, that's just like everybody." But yeah, I agree with you. Like
yeah.
there's something that
So
comes with
yeah,
that.
so career, we talk a lot about surprise. We do episodes about health and Um, people are obsessed women unfortunately are obsessed with their weight, so we'll do that, especially around the holidays. Relationships, a lot about not just marriages, but friendships. We've had one on dating when you're older. Yeah, it's kinda like all things that, maybe older women do with a faith bent to it a little bit. How would you describe it as a listener?
Yeah, I really liked what you said as an encouragement because yes, we have a similar format. I mean, I did, like I said, get some inspiration from both of you and how you interview others, but it always seems like it's a topic that you hear from women, from people. It's important, it's out there. So you want to touch on it, understand how somebody took that topic and learned from it, grew from it, what they did with it. And then you take like this real life example and you can grow with that. So, yeah, I
I
really like
like your
the
explanation a
encouragement.
lot better. So
Yeah, that's what every time I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay, I wanna learn something today." And the other thing is you're really good at how you title your episodes. So if any of the listeners go to Imagine Yourself, I mean, you don't have to listen to them in order. It's not like you're reading a book. You can go through 7 years. That's crazy. That's such a long time. You can go through and you just kind of, "Oh, that title really says something to me. And so I'm going to learn something about that." And it always seems like, oh, that's something that I've been thinking about. So go through, peruse the titles, and find the one that speaks to you because you're probably going to learn something practical that you've been worried about. You've been wondering, how am I going to move forward with this? And there's a title for it. Trust me.
Well, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Of course.
We
Of
do
course.
use a little, artificial intelligence occasionally to help
Well,
us, but
yeah. Why not? It's there. That's what it's there for. So, and you started with the idea. That's what I think about when I use AI. It's like I started with the idea. It just kind of helped me take it a little bit further. So,
oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, ChatGPT, I use it for radio a lot, and yeah.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
gotta be careful not to, 'cause it does make mistakes, and you
Right.
can't fully depend on it.
Hmm.
Because sometimes
Hmm.
I'll ask it for titles, and it'll give me the cheesiest stuff, and I'm like,
That's not it.
"Dude, no."
No. Delete.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. You can't just like copy and paste and move forward. You have to make sure it still aligns with what you're trying to say because you're still the human. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so for
Yeah.
now, we're okay.
Yeah,
For as
for
far as
now.
our kids, I don't know, I mean, what
We
kinda
don't know.
world that's gonna be,
Right.
but
We don't. Well, yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation. Like I said, we never really fully know where we're going to go, how we're going to move forward. Even when I say, hey, remember this time and this specific thing that happened, I still don't really know exactly how we're going to move forward in the conversation. And I always find new things out. I get curious. So I have questions that pop into my brain. I always write notes. You could see me doing that. So
Mhm.
I just, really liked kind of the little conversation we had because I think it'll be helpful for people to, again, you don't necessarily have to be a God believer to listen to this podcast, but I believe in God and I rely on my faith quite a bit. And I love to hear how other people have done that and moved forward with God's direction. So I'm glad that you shared a little bit of that with us. So it kind of makes you think, well, when is the best time for me to pray? How do I listen to God? I do tend to say, well, that's just something else or that's just me talking to myself. But sometimes if you think about it, it's really God guiding me and I have to remember that. So that was good direction. We talked a lot about format changes just in life in general in your job. Like you thought you were going to do this and then you ended up doing that and what that looked like for you. And we talked about following your passion. So I think much of what we shared here can help our listeners and it goes in line with what we're trying to do with the Show Me the Way podcast. So I appreciate all of your perspective and giving time today. I know you've got a lot of things going on, but just really wanted to have you. Now it's complete. I've had you and Lanee on the show.
All right.
So, yeah. So thank you so much for being here. And I mean, do you have anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we move past this episode?
No, I do hope that somebody can grasp anything. I mean, I always hope that and pray that with a podcast that somebody who's listening just, and I say by chance, but we all know coincidence is God being anonymous, right?
Oh, I love
So,
that. Yes. Yes.
um, that they can take a nugget.
Yeah.
Something I said, something you said. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that.
Oh my
Nugget. That
gosh.
I seriously, that was just coming out of my mouth because we had a guest on here, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I've mentioned it a couple times. She always says, leave a nugget. Wherever you go, whatever you do, when you're done, leave a nugget with someone, leave a nugget with people. And so I've said that in many of my episodes, and you just said it. So there, that was God speaking through us right now.
There you go.
I am certain. I mean, I have 55 nuggets on my notepad here. So you left quite a bit of nuggets with me, but yeah, I appreciate that and I'm certain that the listeners they should have gotten at least something from almost every episode. I don't know if everyone's listened to every episode, but there's a nugget in all of them and today you gave us quite a few, so I
Well,
appreciate
they
that. So
should listen to every episode.
yes, they should. And Imagine Yourself, although that's
That's
7
right.
years, so that'll take some time.
Yeah. But
But
eventually, yeah.
eventually, yeah. So that's what the challenge is today, listeners. Go out and go find that title that speaks to you and listen to it and then give Sandy and Lanee some love because they've done a great job. So
Oh, thank you.
well, thank you so much for being a guest and I appreciate all of your insight and I look forward to dropping this episode.
All right. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you for joining me for the Show Me the Way podcast. I truly appreciate you tuning in to today's episode about overcoming adversity and finding your path. I hope it brought you new insights, empowered you with perspective, and inspired you to find joy in your journey. If this episode touched your heart, don't forget to leave a quick review as it will help us reach and motivate more people. Until next time, keep seeking the light and showing the way.